Special shout out to all my patrons. Ugh. Yellow.
Hello.
What's up? You here to debate?
Yes, sir.
All right, what topic?
I kind of want to just briefly go over one, but more two.
Okay.
So, what about abortion do you think is good exactly?
I think it's always a moral good to... Oh, here it is right here. I think it's always a moral good to take your bodily autonomy back if your bodily autonomy is being infringed upon. I think that's always a moral good.
What about like late term, like where the baby's like if it's born, like it's gonna live? Like, do you agree with that? Or
Yeah, I think if it's after 22 weeks, we should just prioritize abortion methods that would keep the fetus alive, such as a hysterectomy abortion or induction abortion. So you can still remove the rights violation and not be pregnant anymore. We would just focus on those abortion methods.
so the baby would still live though?
Yeah.
Okay. So what does abolishing the police accomplish?
Yeah, so I don't believe that the police serve a utility to the citizen. I believe they only serve a utility to the state, in so that they take poor people and people of color and throw them into prison to become slave labor for the state. So I don't believe that as a just system. I don't think carceral or retributive justice actually works, and we should more focus on the systemic issues that create crime rather than reacting to crime like we do with police.
Okay, so hypothetically, I walk into somewhere and someone gets murdered and then they just walk home, or they just don't get punished for that, or
No, there would still be laws, there would still be people to uphold those laws, but I don't believe in the policing system as it is currently. I think the entire system is broken and needs to be restructured from the ground up with a focus on retributive and transformative justice and a focus on preventing crime as opposed to reacting to crime.
Well, you're saying abolish police. So if a kid walks into a school and starts shooting 8-year-olds, who's going to stop him if there's no police?
Who stops them now?
The police.
No, actually, most school shootings are stopped by teachers or guidance counselors. We have direct evidence to show that police don't stop shootings. When we look at like Uvalde, there were 300 plus uniformed officers on scene and they waited 70 minutes before they did anything.
Yes, I agree. They handled that situation poorly, but they're learning from that. In the police officers are trained. Not all of them do it because not all of them have the guts to run into an active shooter, but they're trained to run towards the gunfire. And they're trained to go in at no matter what. If there's someone shooting at innocent people, they're trained to run in and save lives.
So yes, and then they don't do that. So all the Uvalde
not
police,
all the time.
Hold on. We use Uvalde because it's a really good example, right? Like it's a pretty good case study on how police react. So all the Uvalde cops had active shooter drills or active shooter training. They all had it. Extensive active shooter training, some of the best you can get in the country. And what happened is it didn't do anything. They actively got children killed. Specifically,
they were being told to not go in by the superior officer that was at the scene.
Did the superior officer tell them to yell out, to have any kid who was in the area yell so they could find them, and then those kids got shot? No,
the superior officer. If you watch the body cam videos, there's literally officers, their body cams, and they're in the school, and they say, they're literally like, what the hell are we doing? There's I hear gunfire, like, why aren't we going in? And
yeah, there was only one there, and this is what they found after investigating all of the footage and all of the evidence from Uvalde. There was only one officer at the start who tried to go into the classroom. The other officer stopped him and then made him leave the area. And then no one did anything until, what was it? Border Patrol showed up or whoever it was and went into the room. So no, I think it's a great case study of how we can give police all the training we want in the world. Doesn't matter. If we want to talk about what are we going to do with a school shooting, why don't we look at the systemic causes of school shootings, because we have enough evidence to see them and try to fix something there. We also, like I said, we have evidence on who stops the most school shootings, and it's teachers or guidance counselors, people that know the student. We also have evidence of 30 years of school shootings to show that when there are police in the schools, like SROs, there is a higher mortality rate and sometimes a higher fatality rate because the shooters come more armed. So I don't think
Okay.
police are actually doing
I,
it, being effective in school shootings
so
whatsoever.
you said most. I'm not even gonna say school. Most like public shootings, like any shootings of mass people. Most public shootings you said are stopped by like a faculty or like
No, no,
some
no.
other.
School. It's only, I'm talking about school
Okay,
shootings.
okay. Schools. So most schools are stopped by like faculty or whatever, right?
Yeah, most school shootings are stopped by either teachers or guidance counselors.
Okay. So do you think there's ever been a school shooting that has been stopped in the very early stages or prevented because of police? Ever?
Sure, probably.
Okay. So do you think it's better to have one less school shooting or just abolish the police and have that one more school shooting that the police would have prevented?
So when I say abolish the police, I'm not talking about tomorrow we get rid of cops. I'm saying abolishing the
That's what it sounds
police.
like.
Hold on. Abolishment of police in prison would be the final step in a larger scale reform of the different systems that operate our country. When, like I said, if we want to look at school shootings, before we can even look at getting rid of, that's actually a good idea. Before we can actually look at getting rid of um, cops in schools, first we need to look at what causes school shootings to begin with. Once we figure that out and we can look at the systemic causes of school shootings, then we can work on getting rid of the cops in the school.
Are you familiar with the Mandalay Bay shooting?
Not off the top of my head.
So there was a music concert in Las Vegas, and there's a man in a high-rise building that overlooked the concert, and he
Oh
rented
yes,
out the
yeah.
building, brought a ton of guns in, and then when the concert started, there was hundreds of thousands of people there. I actually have friends that were there at the time, but um, there was 100,000, and he just started shooting out of the window, and literally he had like when they found his body, he had so much more ammunition than that he didn't shoot. And the only reason that the shooting stopped is because the cops were literally up there and he killed himself because he knew that he was either going to get shot by the cops or kill himself.
Okay.
So the cops
How many
saved
people did he
lives that
kill?
day. A ton. I don't remember.
60 people and wounded 413.
Yeah,
What are the systemic causes of this crime?
a guy that wanted to kill people.
Okay, how did he do it?
He shot them from a building
With what?
with guns.
Kind of seems like we just found the systemic cause of the mass shooting.
The guns?
Kind of seems like since we're the only country that this happens in systemically,
Well,
we're the
yeah,
only country with as open gun laws as we have, in like towards all of our
it doesn't really matter
counterpart
about
countries.
the laws because a lot of people that get school shootings, like you can, it's. I'm sure some of them are legally getting these guns, but it's really easy to get a gun that's not legal.
Yeah, why is it hard? Why is it not that easy in other countries?
Because there's just no guns to begin with, and they don't have it in their constitutional rights that we should have them.
Do you think the constitutional rights are set in stone and can never be changed?
I think they're there for a reason, and the framers that built the Constitution put that in there for a reason.
Sure. What was the reason they put in? And I'm not anti-Second Amendment, by the way. I just think it should be heavily regulated. But what was the reason they put the Second Amendment in the Constitution?
Well, I would argue that it's for defense, for defending yourself and your family.
I'd argue that's what we've interpreted it as, but it's not the reason that they put it in there.
The reason is to prevent the government from doing shit, right?
Yeah, I mean, the overall reason it's in there is because at the time it was written, the government and the average citizen had about the same munitional power. So the government, the average citizen, you could hold off the government if you really needed to by forming a militia. You can't do that anymore. Now, we've reinterpreted the Second Amendment to say, well, no, it means to protect yourself, your family from any sort of violence. We've reinterpreted it that way. But that's not the original way it was meant to be written. So we've already changed things in the Constitution to fit our modern framework. So why can't we change it again? Why can't we look at guns and see that in instances like this, I mean, this guy had what? The Vegas shooting. He had 14 firearms. He had AR-15 semi-automatic rifles. Um, like when we're looking at the ones that he actually could use to shoot and hurt people, he used these bigger guns. Why can't we get rid of those? What's the
He could
issue
have
with
used a
that?
pistol. It wouldn't have made a difference.
Well, I mean, but how many people is he going to kill from that far of a distance and that high up with a pistol compared to an
Well, if you
AR-15?
if you look at the videos from that day, there's so many people concentrated in that area. A blind squirrel could have hit those people with a pistol. Like, it wouldn't have been hard. And you can get a drum mag for a pistol that holds 100 rounds, a Glock. You can get a fully automatic Glock that holds 100 rounds, and you can like
We
you can
can
you
we can
can
speculate all we want of like he could have done this or he could have done that, but what he did do was use these readily available weapons, right? I can say all the time, someone could still get cocaine. Does that mean we should legalize cocaine just because
no.
someone can get their hands on it?
Cocaine's not legal. Guns are.
But that's what I'm saying. Cocaine at one time was legal. We made it
Yes, but I
illegal.
think it's the right of the people to have guns. Do I think it's the right of the people to go shoot other people? No, but I think it is the right of the people
Yeah, I
to
think you
have
can own a
guns to
gun.
be
I
able.
think we should look though at what type of gun we're giving people and how strict we are with who gets them. I don't think anything in the Constitution is necessarily a quote unquote right. I think it's more of a liberty.
Aren't they called God-given rights?
I Nothing in the Constitution is God given. They called them the God given. It doesn't mean they're God given, especially because I don't believe in God. So like how God given? No, I think we have inalienable human rights, like the right to life, the right to bodily autonomy, the right to liberty, things like that. But when I'm
That's
looking
what
at
people say as God-given. That's what people say as
yeah, but
like
when I'm
God.
looking at like the right to own a gun, that's not God given. That's country given, and
Yes, I
a
agree.
country can alter that at any point if they want to. And I think
I
they
agree.
personally, I agree with Thomas Jefferson. The Constitution should be thrown out every 20 years and rewritten because it's a document that's meant to live and change. We shouldn't just keep adding amendments. We should rewrite the whole thing every 20 years.
What if there's someone who's rewriting it that thinks we shouldn't be able to choose our religion or choose what our free
Well,
speech?
I believe the Constitution, if it's rewritten, should be voted on by the people via a popular vote. I don't think it's something that should be voted on via representatives. I think that has to be given directly to the people because it's our way of making it so the government can't impede upon our civil rights. That's actually better. Not liberties, they're civil rights, which are rights granted by the government. So I believe that that's something that we should directly, as a people, choose.
So say I have a family of 6, and what guns do you think I should be allowed to own to defend my family?
I think there's nothing wrong with certain hunting rifles. I think there's nothing wrong with pistols or like handguns, and I think there's nothing wrong with shotguns. Anything over that, I think, is overkill.
Um,
I also think that to own a gun, you should have you. There's a lot. I think there's a lot of steps we should implement in terms of gun. Even though I hate the gun debate, but I'll do it right now. I think there's a lot of things that we should look at and structure more like owning a car and having a license. I think that when you turn 18, you should be able to get a permit for gun ownership, which is just your way to learn how to use. I think you should be required to pass a written exam at the state level, a written safety exam. I think you should then get I would probably say 60 hours, probably minimum, at like a gun training course via a state approved safety instructor or firearms instructor. Once you've done that, you have to then get insurance on whatever gun you own. So any gun you own, you're going to be paying insurance on. So think about that when you're owning your
what
guns.
what about people?
Hold on really quick. I want to finish this real quick. I think you should then you then can get your gun license. That license needs to be updated. I would probably say every 2 years you have to go and repass the written test and all of that. Now we can talk about like provisional ones for like hunting ones. Maybe your hunting license doesn't need to be as strict as an ownership of other type of guns. Neither here nor there. I think you can own higher capacity guns, but you need to store them at a gun range. They need to be stored there, and then you can shoot them all you want for sport. But I think we would only allow certain guns like in the house and things like that.
So with all these tests you have to pass and the insurance you have to pay, what about people that aren't literate and they can't afford all these tests, or they can't afford a license, they can't afford all this stuff, but they literally all they want to do is just protect their family? They shouldn't get a gun. They shouldn't have the right to protect their family if they can't read
Well,
and they don't have money.
I think gun ownership is a civil right. So I don't mean we can talk about whether I don't know where I line on whether or not people should just have guns to begin with. I'm pretty pro 2A, but I'm just talking about if we want to look at these rights in a way that they can be structured to prevent harm. I think this is one of the best ways to structure it to prevent harm. Now, there are people who are illiterate that pass driver's tests. You can get a proxy to ask you the questions and you answer and they write it down. So the illiterate thing is not, I don't think it's a valid critique because we can just get you a proxy. When
Well,
it comes
you did
to
say money.
Go ahead.
You said
Yeah,
insurance.
I think you should have to own insurance on a gun, just like you have to have it on a car. I think you should have to have insurance. So if your gun causes damage or causes harm, that can be fixed. Now we can talk about how much you're putting into the insurance. We can talk about where that money comes. We can have that talk all day. I mean, I also think there shouldn't be poor people because we should be paying people well above minimum wage. But and so the funds thing isn't really a thing in my argument, because I also believe people should be paid more.
Do you think it would be a good or bad idea to have at least like one armed police officer in every school in America?
No, I actually, if you look at my source document, my link tree, I have a lot of information on SROs. SROs cause way more issues than they solve. It's actually crazy how bad SROs are in most schools. I can pull up direct stats if you want me to, but that will be here all day.
But I feel like that would help prevent school shootings. No, if a kid that went
again, we've got the data on this. Schools with SROs have a higher mortality rate than schools without SROs. So the SRO being on scene causes more people to be harmed.
If you're a kid that goes to a school and you're thinking about shooting up that school, if there's a police officer that's there every single day, you're going to think less about shooting up the school.
No, again, with schools with SRO, we have all this data, dude. Schools with SROs.
What can I look up to find this?
You can go to the link tree in my bio. You can go to the abolish police and prison section. I have a lot of different sources on specifically SROs. So for instance, we've got research, like I said, school resource officer. They're cops that are in schools. They call them school resource officers, but they're police officers that are stationed in schools. So specifically, there was a study done from 1980 to 2019 analyzing every mass shooting in school, and they found that schools.
The first mass shooting was in 1999.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
No, it wasn't.
The first school mass shooting was in 1999.
No, it wasn't. You're joking,
what was before
right?
that?
You're joking, right?
What's before that?
You're talking about Columbine, right?
Yeah.
There were school-related shootings prior to that. They started in the 80s.
What? Can you give me the name of one?
I have to pull up every single. Hold on. Like pull up a list of all school shootings, which feel like I should now be on a watch list. So the earliest known school shooting was actually in the 1700s, but we'll go to like current ones. Before 2000, you have, these are the 1800s. I'll just pull up 1900 so that you have them all. You want before 1999?
Yeah.
Sure. What you want me to start in what year do you want me to start in?
Any year before 1999.
Okay. All right. I'm scrolling down. I'm going to go backwards from 99. I'm going to go backwards from Columbine, okay? Because that seems to be what now Columbine was 15, so obviously that was high with a injury rate of 21. In 1988, there was Fayetteville, Tennessee. I'm sorry, 1998 was Springfield, Oregon, with a injury rate of 25 and a death rate of 4. In 98, there was also Craighead County, Arkansas, with an injury rate of 10 and a death rate of 5. Going back further, San Diego, California, in 1996, with a death rate of 3. I'm skipping some. I'm just naming certain ones. How much further back do you want me to go? So the first one you mentioned,
there were 4 people died, correct?
4 dead, 25 injured.
Including the perpetrator's parents. So that didn't actually happen at the school. 2 of those deaths didn't happen at the school.
25 were still injured. What does it matter?
I feel like deaths are more important than injuries.
I don't. I think any death is important.
No, that's what I said. Any death is important.
But I also think the injuries are important too.
No, I think they're important too, but I don't think they're as important as deaths.
I don't know why we're splitting hairs, but okay. Because
you should be looking at the deaths. the actual
Why?
deaths of the
Why
person
am I
caused.
only looking at the deaths, not the injuries?
Because it matters how many people they killed.
It also matters how many people they hurt. Equally as
Agreed.
much.
I agree with that. But it's not considered a mass shooting unless a certain amount of people die, I don't think.
How many people have to die for it to be considered a mass shooting? Also, I didn't know we were adding on mass. I thought we were just talking about school shootings. Why do we need to add on mass to it? I think any shooting in a school is too much.
I was saying that the first mass school shooting was in 1999.
Sure, if you want to talk about the first one with the death rate over like 15, yeah.
That's what I was saying. That's what I was referring to.
But what I don't know why that's important. Why are we looking at only the mass ones and not all the other school shootings? And he's gone. Okay. Am I crazy here?